Hello and welcome to the Car Sim and Race Driver Show with me, Hugh Hattrick, and my very special co-host. It is Andrew Marr.
Hello.
It's good to see you tonight. And we barely got started because we were so busy talking about things beforehand. So sorry for being a couple of minutes late, but we're now ready to go and can't wait to get on with the show. Now, we've got a few headlines. So you're about to say that you had some F1 headlines there as well, Andrew. What were your
just bits and pieces, really, because it's quite interesting. The rumour mill's been going nuts about, the made-up rumour mill to try and keep people watching F1 newses.
Yeah.
That Toto Wolff was definitely going to be leaving, and Hamilton's going to be leaving, and Vettel's going to Mercedes, and all sorts of stupid things like that. Well, it turns out that it's been known within the Mercedes team for quite a long time that someone extremely important to the Mercedes team has already left. It was February, and it's a guy called Paul Morgan. Paul Morgan's a British engineer that worked and sort of did his apprenticeship, if that's such a thing, for Formula One engineers with Cosworth. You know, learned his trade in Cosworth and then worked for Ilmor, which I've spoken about a few times. It's a British company, which for a very long time made the Mercedes Formula One engines and then got bought by Mercedes and repackaged as AMG HPP, High Performance Power Plants or Powertrains or whatever. And that's in a place called Brixworth near Northampton, between Northampton and Market Harborough, which is in South Leicestershire, in the home of Golden Wonder Crisps, the second best crisps in the world after Walker's, which is also in Leicestershire. And he's the guy. After the founders of Ilmor were Mario Ilian and Paul Morgan. Sorry, I've got the name of the guy that's leaving completely wrong. Where's he gone? Andy Cowell is actually the one that's left. Paul Morgan was one of the founders, and Paul Morgan died. And then that's why Mercedes then bought them instead of just used them as a sort of a customer engine or whatever.
Yeah.
And Andy Cowell has been the guy he's the man. He's a sort of a multi-talented brains behind their dominant engine from 2014 onwards. And he's sort of moving on to other things. And it's interesting because they've kind of, you know, gardening leave when people who are important get told to go and do something interesting for a while so no one else can nick them and take their knowledge. Well, they couldn't do that with him. So what they've done is they've given him other projects to do that are very important in Mercedes to make sure that the people like Honda and Renault, who have definitely been offering large sums of money for this guy to go there. Because this is not like one of the little engineers. This is the guy running the company. But he also is an engineer. He's had serious hands in the design of the engines, you see. So they're desperate to keep him in some capacity so he doesn't go. Not just so they don't lose him, but so the other guys don't get the benefit.
I know, it's quite a thing, isn't it?
But not Toto Wolff. And it never would have been Toto Wolff. They're just ridiculous. The stuff they make up. It's just crazy.
I think Toto Wolff really quite enjoys his position. I think he quite likes what he's doing. So I think at that point, and he's still quite young overall in that kind of position. So I think there's plenty of time yet for him to stay. I don't think there'd be any major moves like that. And whether Hamilton eventually quits, I think he'll want to equal Schumacher's record because he's so close to it. That I think, as you say, he will want to try and get there, and then potentially beat it. Because if he gets 7. Then, you know, he's going to think, well, come on, you're going to try and get 8. And you're going to try and do a bit more, haven't you? At least
why would he go to Ferrari? A lot of stuff has been talking about how Ferrari is now the third team, because it seems from the pre-season testing and other stuff they're doing that Red Bull is quicker. So why would Hamilton go there? He wouldn't. It's one thing for a science who's never won a race but shows real promise to go. That's one thing. But for a 6 times world champion and the most, dominant force in Formula One at the moment, to just go, I'll tell you what, I'll put a 7th world title or an 8th world title in jeopardy by just going to that mess that's known as Ferrari, because they are a mess.
I would like to quickly welcome all our viewers and subscribers as well, because we've got a number of new subscribers. We had 9 in the last week, in fact, ever since we started our special video of, let's get to 1,000 subscribers. And I've got the prize there behind me. So I also did a video this week. I don't know if you saw it. I did actually take it down because it was such a joke. One of my friends suggested, why don't I do one of these sub for sub things? And so I thought, well, I'll try it. Nothing wrong with that. Actually, it can't harm anybody.
What for what? It's
called a sub for sub. So in other words, if you subscribe,
like a sandwich.
Yeah, well, I wish it was. It would have been a bit more interesting.
Okay.
But if you sub to somebody else's channel, they should do the same for you. And there's all these
so like free advertising, and then
and they do it. But I joined one, and I put out the same kind of post as what many of the people put out, saying it'd be great to get to 1,000 subscribers. Even the first 100 would be great, and obviously I'll subscribe. I subscribed. The 2 people put comments down. All the other ones seem to have hundreds of them. I put 2. I had 2 comments on mine, and I subscribed to the other 2. They said, "Look, we want to have proof that you've subscribed." So I sent a little screenshot, and not one of them subscribed back. So I ended up just saying after a couple of days, I'll give them time to subscribe. But they seemed very quick to make sure I did it, and then they didn't bother. So I just unsubscribed for both of them. And then it was such a joke. I did a video because I thought, well, here I am. I'm doing all this stuff, and either I'm being ignored or it's just a complete nonsense. And as far as I can see, it's a complete nonsense.
It's just a scam. Playing the game, isn't it?
Yeah, and they expect you to stay with them. So I just put that video down because it wasn't worth it. I thought I'm not going to bother going into it. We're growing the channel in normal and good ways, and we're seeing that growth. We're seeing bigger viewership as well, which is good. So thanks to everyone who has already subscribed, and of course to our new subscribers as well. And normally what we try and do is we have our kind of live stream on a Sunday night where we commentate. Sometimes we do that on Podbean or on YouTube, but it's either one of the other ones, but we always try and let you know. And of course, we always have our Thursday night stream here as you're watching now on YouTube. And we're building that up as we go. Now, Ant was very helpful because he had said, and I know he's watching just now, why don't we try...
Things are good.
Yes, why don't we try using other footage? Because there's like a common area footage. So in other words, if somebody on YouTube has made a video already, you can, in some cases, if they've ticked certain boxes, you can actually use that footage. But you've got to do like commentary on it or give a different view and things like that. It's quite complicated.
So this is how they do those montages they do the voiceovers too.
Yes, yeah. So that's kind of, so I have had a look at that because I thought, could I find any races that perhaps we could use and then commentate on? Maybe there might even be some, quite like British touring car or something that was quite exciting to watch. But at the moment, there hasn't been much I can find that works because I need to then record that screen, put that as a video.
It's just no footage out there.
It's quite interesting. But I have taken it on board because we want to make sure that all our viewers and listeners have a chance to be part of the show and be part of what's happening, and to obviously want them to interact with us. That's the key thing. And that's what we're really hoping to try and do, because we are trying our best, and we hope that we're funny, and we hope that we're exciting and interesting and different to what is already out there, which I think we are for sure.
Well, so, I'll tell you what is funny, is this idea that it's a surprise that Carlos Sainz has said he's not going there as a number 2. He's going there to win races, and he'll work with the team and his teammate to do it. And what? They just make up nothing. I mean, it's like, no. What, that really competitive Formula 1 racing driver that has been doing really well and, growing and gaining maturity, is going to get to the biggest team in the world and not try to win.
I don't know. It's crazy.
No way.
I know you've seen the Netflix program, the one where they from last year, which is very good. I have to admit, I really do enjoy it, the Netflix Drive to Survive. And on it, they had a very short clip from Zach Brown, just from last year when Sainz joined them, because he's only been there a year. And this will be his 2nd year. And he said, I think Carlos will be with us for many years to come. And I thought, all right, well, there we are.
Before he moved to Ferrari, I've now seen footage in an interview with the same guy and with Otmar Thingy-Jig, the other guy. Or is he Racing Point? No, he's from McLaren. Whatever. Where they said that they knew he was that Ferrari were asking about him months ago, long time ago, and they had already given permission for Carlos to talk to them. So they knew that given the chance he'd go. So, I mean, I thank McLaren for giving him the chance, because I'm really glad McLaren is getting better and the car's getting better. You know, that's fantastic. We're both McLaren fans. I mean, nobody can tell you're a McLaren fan because you're not wearing a hat. But that was irony for any Americans out there. Because he is wearing a hat.
I was going to say, how many teams am I representing today?
Well, I don't know, but they're all orange, so just one.
Yeah, I won't show you my orange shorts.
Your face is pink, so maybe you're in a Mercedes clone as well, you know, Blanche, Mercedes. So, yeah, but this year it's not going to be a race winner. Well, it might be. Can you imagine if McLaren won some races this year? I would look like such a fool, but I'd be a happy fool.
Yeah, I mean, I think if Sainz or if Lando Norris as well. I mean, they punched above their weight last year. They certainly they were right in there. Most of the tracks, they were pretty competitive overall. And
much was made of how well they got on. And in the same way that it used to frustrate and annoy me when they go, David Coulthard's too much of a gentleman to be a racing driver. And you're like, oh, shut up, you stupid people. You don't have to be an arse. You don't have to be Schumacher and knock people off the track to be a good racing driver. What you have to be is fast. I mean, Ricciardo is known for being a hell of a racing driver, but he doesn't knock people off the track. He overtakes them cleanly. Now, Sainz and Lando Norris had a really good relationship on and off the track, because off the track they were good mates, and on the track they were respectful but firm.
Yeah.
This idea that you have to hate, I mean, it's an ego problem. That's what it is. If you have to be nasty to your teammate, you're threatened by them, and you're not confident in your abilities. But if you're confident in your abilities, you know what you can do. I mean, look at Bottas. Bottas is teamed with arguably the fastest racing driver of our generation. Okay.
Yeah.
Certainly the most successful. He's got the team around him. Rather than throwing a hissy fit and going every single season, every year, he examines himself, examines his driving style, and he tries to learn. He said for this year that he has been working on specific areas of his driving style to beat Lewis, to get more out of the car that he couldn't get out of it before. What a fantastic attitude. And all people do is go, well, it's going to be replaced soon by Vettel. No, it's going to be replaced soon by George Russell. No, it's going to be replaced soon by a Wombat. No, they're not going to replace him, because he is working really hard with an excellent attitude and confidence in his own abilities and in the fact that he can grow. What more would you want? He's still winning races.
See, it was it is much more business-like now, where they're everything is kind of recorded and discussed before it comes out. So you don't really get the driver's real views of, I mean, yes, to get to some degree, you probably get a bit of it. But in the old days, I mean, when I was watching in the early stages,
or Vettel, he was good at
he is good, but then he's funny. I do like Vettel, because I remember it was Canada a few years ago when there was it pigeons on the track or seagulls or something on the track, and they were joking, saying how they kept up to avoid hitting the seagull. And the seagull kept sitting there. I remember it was in qualifying, and one of the two. And then Hamilton's being interviewed, and at the same time, Vettel happens to walk past. It was on the Sky interviews, and they stop him. And so the two of them are talking away about this wretched pigeon or this bird that's on YouTube, and how it wouldn't move for him. It wouldn't move for him. And so I don't think they ran it over, but they were mighty close to this thing. And it was hilarious, because you got to actually see what they were like. And I like Vettel. I like his character. I think he's quite. He goes over the limit a bit. He has,
and he shows his human. He shows his human side. I've never liked it when he was having these hissy fits, and he's never someone that would admit
if he's done wrong, or if he's kind of.
Well, I was going to say that, but then,
mind you, a few sportsmen will. Not many.
I mean, there is that thing, isn't there? When he did the multi-21 fiasco with Mark Webber. And Mark being Australian like that, I was like, straight away, I'm going to, and all this kind of stuff. And it's all on camera and live, and they can't stop it because Webber's going to have him. And you can see he's like, and then afterwards he goes, straight away he goes, I think I made a mistake there. It's like, really? Did you?
I remember watching the old videos of like Senna going to McLaren, and of course he went to McLaren when Prost was there. So you can imagine, Prost was seen as like the best driver at the time. He'd beaten Lauda and all these ones. It was really massive, and at that point they were like the gladiators of the sport. It was huge. It was absolutely massive. Amazing enough, it was only just being shown live on BBC at that time. The Grand Prix, it hadn't been going that long. They had tended to get highlights and things, but they didn't always get all the races. So could you imagine a young chap like Senna, who had shown incredible potential, had won in the Lotus, had won. And
Prost was one of his.
Yeah, it's kind of.
What's the icon? What's the word? Not hero. He looked up to Prost. He really did.
He respected him.
Yeah, but Prost. I mean, I've seen the interviews where they're together, and he was saying Senna is naive. I think genuinely naive. He thinks he's gone in there and there's going to be fairness and they're going to have this battle on the track and it's going to be fine. And Prost wanted to win. And he would do whatever he needed to do to win. So when, he didn't. Senna learned a lesson, became bitter, and had to go back in him the next year, didn't he? It's like.
Well, the thing is, there's a great clip of the two of them sitting on a sofa, and then Prost says, "Can two people have become equal world champions?" And Senna, this must have been in the second year, said, "No, straight away, only one person can win it." So it's like, it was pretty much evident that they were, because Ant saying it was Prost, Senna's idol. I think he simply respected him and knew that he was the one to beat. And I mean, in those days, and the rivalry was colossal. I mean, we think that it was rivalry in this year with maybe we've not really seen rivalry for quite some time. Really, up until Schumacher and Hill a few years later, because that was pretty touch and go at times. I mean, they had some great comings together in 1995 and things, and at other points. But really, that wasn't
proper, because he had no respect for him. Schumacher had no respect for Damon.
He
famously said that Hakkinen was his only. That he was scared of Hakkinen because he was his only real
kind of challenger.
But the other thing you've got to remember is that Schumacher was a canny lad. And he knew, just like Villeneuve did, he knew how to pull strings and set people off. So, really? Or was he just undermining the confidence of Damon Hill? You'd never really know what was going on inside their head. Because people in that situation, people who aren't like, I don't know, DC or Senna, sort of straight. There's the straight people and there's the people that go around and think about things and come out with what they need to come out with. And the Schumachers and the Villeneuves and the Alonsos of this world, they're the twisty ones, and they will say what they need to say. Which is unfortunate. I prefer the straight talkers myself.
Mansell was a straight talker. Mansell would be he was there to fight and fight to win, but to do it in a proper manner, and that's why he got fired from everywhere, didn't he?
He was a bull with wheels. See, that was the difference. The others, they were sort of like polite. So it's like a bulldozer. If you can't imagine an English version of a bullfight, it just.
I wish we need obviously you have to get rights and permission to show the F1 races, but there's a great clip of Mansell winning in Hungary. I think was it 13th place?
This is where he gives the lift to Senna.
This is what he caught. He overtook Senna to lead the race because Senna was caught up with a back marker, and he caught right up, and he got past him because Senna got closed off behind the back marker, and he overtook the two of them, and got through and won the race in Hungary. And I think that was in the Ferrari at the time, and it was an amazing race. You can imagine what Murray Walker did when that happened. He just
broke the microphone.
But because that was the kind of thing when he just charged and that was it. There was kind of real emotion, and I think in today's drivers they're not being really allowed so much to allow them.
This is why we like the Max Verstappen's 2-year-old kids just spouting stuff off. This is why we like Kimi Räikkönen, because for all that he doesn't say anything, when he says something, it's worth listening to, because he's just like, get lost. Whatever he is him. He's not this corporate version of him. It was F1 race. Yes, I watched that earlier. It was very strange.
Yeah.
Someone set up all these little Matchbox F1 cars on this big long track, and they've superimposed the commentary to the beginning of some F1 race over it. It's just nuts.
That's funny, isn't it?
But yeah, yes, I mean it's such big business now. It's so slick. It's so political. You can't, and because they're representing. This is the worst thing about it. They're not just representing a team. They're representing the brands stickered on the teams, like your shirt. Your shirt shouldn't say anything that would upset those brands because you're a representative of that company. That's what McLaren used to do with their drivers. What DC used to talk about is how they would have to go around all of the different factories and talk to all these people to keep them happy, because they were representatives of the sponsors as well as the Formula One team.
No, it was quite a thing. One of the other things about which was quite funny tonight, they sent me an email regarding the latest esports race on Formula One, because I do the Formula One surveys and things like that. And I don't really fill most of them in because most of them are pretty boring. But this one, I thought it was all about what did you think of the last esports virtual Grand Prix? So I gave them a pretty poor review, only because I just think it really was terrible. And I said, but they did ask, to be fair.
We didn't bother with it, did we?
Yeah, they asked about the commentators, and to be fair, the proper commentators weren't quite so bad. But it was the presenters who overdid it. Who did the first bit. They weren't great. So I said, get rid of the current presenters and put Crofty and Brundle back, or do something with a bit more of an audience and a bit more of a kind of interesting thing. It would have been far better having Damon Hill and Johnny Herbert doing it.
Johnny Herbert's fun. I looked on. I was watching the Sky. They do this thing where they have four like this, but with four of them, and they talking, and they have that football commentator. Why? And they have Johnny Herbert on. Johnny Herbert and Karen Chandok. I know you don't like Karen Chandok, but I quite like him.
I don't mind him. I'm just finding he's a wee bit.
But Johnny Herbert is superb. I do like Herbert are such a good team, and they are funny but knowledgeable. It's that the real badness.
One of the funniest things I ever saw them do, and to any of the people who are listening and watching today, if you go into YouTube and look up Herbert and Hill do the grid walk, because for whatever reason Brundle couldn't do it that week. I can't remember what race it was, but
I can't imagine Damon Hill being very good at that. Johnny Herbert is good because he's proper Cockney geese, really, but
they were hilarious.
Were
they? Because they were just grabbing anybody to get a talk, and then they were staying far too long, and they were doing everything, and it's really, really good. So if you put Herbert and Hill do the grid walk, the F1 grid walk, you'll get it. It's bound to be up there, and it's like, or it might be like their first grid walk, and it was absolutely brilliant, and it's well worth watching, because that's kind of what we like. We like some more of the build. I mean, Martin Brundle is very good when they do it. Of course, that will all be away. They won't be allowed to do that. I would have thought they'll be clearing the grid, and there's a whole bunch of things.
Helen Herbert grid walk, German Grand Prix.
That will be it.
That one.
Yeah, that's probably it. Yeah. So it's well worth watching because it is very, very funny. Yeah. So
I mean, watching Johnny Herbert, for example, because he's been there and he's been around and he's been the teammate of Schumacher, and he's been about, hasn't he? But he's just such an ordinary bloke. You'd meet him in a pub and you'd have a pint with him, But he just. I get told by Ant that he likes expressions I pull when one of you lot start saying how great Top Gear is or something like that. And you get he does the same thing. He was doing it earlier and he's not going like this. One of them's talking nonsense. He's going, no. It's like, I like you. Not me, mate, isn't it? It's great. It's kind of like Johnny Herbert, two idiots, and Karen Chandok. It's just.
Yeah.
No, I've got to be fair. The F1 football guy, why is he on there? Yeah. Actually said something interesting and made sense, but it was something that anybody could say. There was no sort of inside knowledge. It was just a vaguely sensible sentence.
Aye.
Why?
Why? It's crazy, isn't it?
She's like, we've got bring back Georgie Thompson. I miss her. She was fantastic.
Yeah, no, she was very good.
She was really good.
Well, similarly, Sky last year, there was a big thing because Sky decided to put Ted Kravitz in the background more often, and to bring Sharon, what's his name, Karen Chadwell. It was like
Sharon Candok.
Sharon Candok.
To work with you, if I swap your letters around, it comes out Hugh Hattrick.
Yeah, that's the thing. Well, he did more. He was doing more kind of interviews or more kind of so similar things to what Ted Kravitz did. And I think by the end of it, they brought Ted back because I think he was preferred. I think he's just because he's done it for so long.
He's sort of, well, he's kind of like your nerd's best mate.
Yeah, I like him. He's very likable, and he gets the point across well. And similarly, I was watching the Hungarian Grand Prix where Damon Hill won from 1997. It was just out of last night on Sky Sports, and they had like Hill and Herbert, and they also had Croft, and they had somebody else who was also else. There was another person there. I can't quite remember who it was.
Ledyard?
No, it was Ted Kravitz. Ted Kravitz was also doing it, and he was saying that was only his second race in the commentary box. He was assisting the commentators. So at that time, it was Murray Walker and Martin
originally
Brundle.
taken in. Sounds like he's a stray cat. He was originally taken on by ITV.
Yes.
To replace James Allen in the pit lane.
That's right.
James Allen went up to the commentary box to ruin that. Yeah. And that's when the Sniff Petrol Stop the Cock campaign started. And if I could have afforded one of the T-shirts, I'd have owned one. And it worked because he was so awful. It's like in Pride and Prejudice where the cousin comes and he's got these pre-prepared. He's got these prepared statements that he's practiced.
Yeah.
Compliment the ladies. And that's what James Allen was like, but with the track. You know, he'd see a corner and he'd probably write 10 different ways of saying they went around it on a piece of paper and try and fit him in. It's like, you're not Pam Ayres, mate. You don't have to come out with a poem. Just tell us what's happening or shut up.
No, that was the thing. Here's the next question for you, a quick sub-question. What do you think James Hunt would have made of them getting rid of the grid girls and all the rest of it?
I think James Hunt would probably have been murdered by a Black Lives Matter feminist movement. He'd be dead. Honestly, they'd find him strung up somewhere by his ghoulies. James Hunt. I mean, I don't tell anybody. I never liked James Hunt. I think he was an arse. He was an arse as a driver, and I don't think he was as fast as they make out. He is. If there's ever a guy that was in the fastest car, it was him in that McLaren.
Yeah.
And basically, he spent the whole of his time like a hoorah Henry, and
he was kind of. I mean, that in the film Rush, we kind of get to see a little bit of what he was like. And I know he is not one of your favourites.
I mean, I really like. I like Ron Howard, Richie Cunningham, brilliant director. Apollo 13, stuff like that. Superb films, really good director. I like him. But there's just a major problem. I like the guy that played the Rat, did a really good job. He was really like him. That's Nicky Lauda, for anyone that didn't know. And Thor, what's his name? Chris Hemsworth.
Chris Hemsworth. Yeah, he was good.
Chris Hemsworth, again, great actor. I like the guy. He's all right. But you just can't make a film. There's two problems I have with it. The one-dimensional portrayal of Nicky Lauda. As the man that can, they basically made him out to be an engineer that had a steering wheel.
Yeah.
You don't become 3 times world champion in 2 different teams by just being somebody who sets a car up.
So here's the question.
But the thing that got really, really wrong is I watch real motorsport.
Yeah.
And all the cars look like they're doing 3 miles an hour while they're shaking a camera and cutting lots of angles. Yeah. They'd have done better if they'd made it a cartoon. It's just terrible.
It's funny because that was one of the first films, a few motorsport films I've ever been to, that I took my family members along who were not motorsport fans. I saw it in a lovely little cinema in London, in North London, with my mother and my in-laws. And they loved it. They were really quite. It was a wonderful atmospheric. It was one of these cinemas where you sit on a sofa you know, and the whole thing, you've got tables around you, and it was really, really nice, actually.
Okay.
So we watched it there. But I thought, you know, it was one of the few motorsport movies that people can maybe get away as a motorsport movie, because it obviously has a real story behind it. And compared to some, remember, because like Stallone did one movie, and that was terrible. So
Stallone also did The Expendables, and if you see that,
which was not great.
You want to get one of the bullets to come through the. I mean,
that was the thing.
Doors are less wooden than they're acting. Anyway, carry on.
Yeah, my big question today is: can Formula One afford to get more politically correct? Can it afford to lose its real characters? Because when you think about it, Bernie Ecclestone was pretty great. I mean, a real character, great.
Man of the world. I mean,
you know, and all the old teams
that Lara Croft has tried to destroy, Bernie Ecclestone probably ran them all.
You know, yeah. I mean,
the Illuminati. I don't know.
But you think of all the bosses of the Formula One teams, you know, which now pretty much people like Ron Dennis. I mean, whether you like him or hate him, he was a character. I mean, you know, you didn't mess with him. You know,
he was the local bouncer.
Yeah, I mean, he was.
Honestly, he was the guy. Even the jacket he had on looked like an old skinhead's jacket.
Even people like Tom Walkinshaw, you thought actually you wouldn't mess with him. He was, you know, they were all strong.
He reminded me of my now ex and long dead father-in-law. Seriously, he looks just like him.
Yeah, but you know, they're all. I think the old F1 bosses, you know, the team bosses. I mean, they had to do so much to get where they were. I mean, they were very successful.
And Ken Tyrrell, who was, I think, Jackie Stewart is the most honourable man he'd ever met.
Yeah,
he was in that team on a handshake, and he never signed a thing in his entire career. Never had to. I mean, that's the kind of people I respect. Right, well, okay.
Because where it's going.
The problem is that in the world we're in now, an organisation like that has to follow the world. And the Trinity Media and those people, they're not trying to keep F1 fans. They're trying to get the whole world to watch them. They're trying to be football. They're trying to be the universal sport.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't like a lot of things that go on in the world, but I don't like political correctness, because people shouldn't be stopped from speaking their minds. People shouldn't be stopped, even if you don't like it. What people need to do is to learn how to disagree without being stupid about it, or to stand up for themselves, or whatever. That's what they need to do. So, political correctness. No, I'd as long as the racing was good, I'd still watch it. Someone like me, because that's what I'm there for. I don't give a flying foobar about the people in charge. I don't care. I'm not a celebrity watcher, even though I'm on Instagram. It's mainly to laugh at Kate Beckinsale making a fake pizza out of a cat, which she did, dressed as a cat. Also, she's got a really nice backside. And she has. It's rocking. And
you won't get that anywhere else, trust me.
Apart from on Kate Beckinsale's YouTube, Instagram channel. But she's funny as anything, though.
I wish we were endorsed by her. That'd be quite funny. But yeah, so it's just interesting, because I know that.
I know what you're saying. I don't think it'll make any difference either way.
F1, if you haven't heard so far, for all our current listeners and our new listeners and viewers, F1 has made a statement today saying that they're going to be bringing out a whole bunch of new things regarding inclusion and diversity and all this kind of stuff in the oncoming weeks. Now, and I
think we need to see what they're going to be, because we have also had Ross Brawn and Binotto and all this kind of stuff all make very similar statements about how, yes, we want to do everything we can to encourage a more diverse driver and lineup and paddock and this kind of stuff, which is not saying we are going to be positively discriminating, but it's not actually saying that. And Mario Binotto has said, you got to start in schools. You've got to go into the schools and get the girls liking Formula One and other minorities, whatever minorities you consider, you've got to get them liking Formula One and motorsport first. Then because they've specifically said it's still got to be on merit. So I think the Mercedes team, no, the Ferrari team have got a scheme now where they are active. They've got a female-only chance to get into the Ferrari driver program.
That's right.
Right? But this is like Formula W. It's not, the statement they came out with was they recognise how hard it is for example, women to get into motorsport. For whatever reason, it is difficult. So we are going to be doing this to see if we can find any female drivers who have the standard of driving, that we can then put them in the driver program so they've got the money to race in F4. Now, that's not the same as going, we are going to replace some lads with lasses who don't really matter who they are, is it?
I would have loved.
You see what I mean?
Yeah.
That nuance is very important. I would never support someone just putting in a minority in a car because they're a minority. And I think anybody that's a decent motorsport fan would.
No, actually, I think my concern is that if they did something like that, I think it would really put off a lot of people. I think there's a lot of folk who are kind of middle of the road, you're not into all the politics that's going on just now, and they just want to have good racing and get on with it. They're a bit fed up with things, how it's already changed quite a bit, and how they've got rid of some of the characters and some of the stuff that was quite fun of Formula One, and they kind of got rid of all that. They don't want to see anymore. They don't want to see people, bowing the knee at Grand Prix or wearing particular T-shirts supporting whatever group it might be.
But flipping that on its head, you're talking about getting rid of characters. Someone bowing the knee and expressing themselves is someone with a character.
Yeah.
As long as someone's allowed to express other things.
Yeah, that it's not all one thing. Because
should shut up. I disagree. No, let him say what he likes. That's his life.
Oh, absolutely.
I wouldn't use him as a wise old man. I wouldn't be going to him for advice.
It's kind of like the football thing. But yesterday on the football, I think one of the teams, all the players took the knee, and you have to think, well, what happened if one of those players on that team didn't want to take the knee, maybe didn't go along with it?
Yeah, no, that
would be hard, because then if he didn't, he would probably have been fired. I mean, the way it's going at the moment, it would have been huge pressure for him.
Close to my heart is male suicide. 76%. 76% of all suicide is male.
Yeah.
No one even knows that, and they certainly don't care. And I was watching a TED talk by a woman whose uncle took his own life, and he was a successful doctor, 47 years old. And because of that, it affected her so much that she started really working to try and help men, specifically because of the numbers and because no one is, not kill themselves. Now, a lot of the comments underneath the YouTube TED talk were that if a man was making that talk, people would be attacking them for not looking after women properly and this kind of stuff. It took a woman to say it for it to be taken seriously.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make, if you understand what I'm saying? So I know exactly what you mean. If someone in that football team went, well, I don't agree with what's going on here, yeah, they'd be ripped to shreds. In the same way that if a man says, you need something to light your face.
All right. I think that's probably a cap. Hang on.
Get a torch, put it underneath, and go, whoa.
There you go.
I'm blind.
Exactly.
Yeah, the point is that it's both a serious subject, but one thing you're allowed to say and the other thing you're not. And that's the political correctness. That's the mass social media backlash, everyone jumping onto a bandwagon, not being able to express themselves, that I completely disagree with. You know? One of the things about our little channel is the way that we can say, nah, he's rubbish.
And the thing is,
whatever.
The danger is that they react to people and to things that, if they think about it long enough, and look at it properly, they would realise not to get involved with. Because there's a great clip out there today of a lady who was supposed to be on the Lambeth advisory board for the police down in London, and she was put on Channel 4 with Cathy Newman to talk about should the Winston Churchill statue be taken down.
Okay.
And she said, well, yes, I've heard views on both sides, that perhaps he was a racist, or perhaps he was this or that or not.
Oh, he definitely was.
But the best thing was, though, and she's similarly a minister, she's a pastor. I don't know what church it is, but she's a pastor, and she's on this advisory board. And said, well, I've never met him, I've never met Churchill. She thought he was alive today. She thought he was somebody who was alive today. And yes, it's honestly, it's absolutely true. You can watch it it's on YouTube. She's, and the big problem.
I don't watch that.
Yeah, it's absolutely crazy, and it is coming from everywhere. There's all sorts of instances where people are. Well, she's quite young. She's quite young.
This is what it is then. See, this is the problem. People don't know.
Yeah.
People don't know what they're talking about. They don't know who these people are. They've got no connection to it.
Yeah.
My dad was in World War II.
Yeah.
We were brought up when we were still relatively close to it.
Yeah.
I was,
Yeah. You were early 70s.
That World War II finished. I hear the stories of a lot of people that were still alive about what happened.
Yeah.
Churchill did lots of things that people didn't like. He was not well liked when he became Prime Minister in World War II.
Yeah.
Because of what happened in World War One.
Yeah.
And hundreds of thousands of people that got killed because of a very serious mistake he made.
Yeah.
But this is something I seem to be able to do, and other people don't seem to be able to do. You can, the human race there's all sorts of people that screw up, and
But you see what I'm trying to get at is that if Formula One listens to people like, you're going to get a lot of people shouting out like, we've got to do all this diversity, we've got to have this, we've got to have that. And then you find out they don't actually know the basics, because they're basically just shouting and being heard. Well, they can make grave errors of judgment because they might say, right, we're going to have everybody kneeling at the front, so we're going to have all of this.
Something called the Dunning-Kruger effect. Okay, this is a real thing. And the Dunning-Kruger effect has been pretty solidly proved. And it is a fact that people who don't know much, no, seriously, people who don't know very much, or maybe aren't capable of knowing very much, are always a lot more confident in their knowledge than people who have a deeper and more subtle understanding of something. So that you get confidence is up here, and then as you get, which way are we going? That way. No, that way. As you get more knowledge, your confidence goes down because you realise how much you don't know.
Yeah.
And that's the point. If you don't know anything, you don't know anything.
Yeah.
You know something, and then as you learn more, and as you get more, you fill in the gaps, and you get more of a subtle understanding. You realise you don't actually know very much, and things aren't as simple as you think.
Yeah. But now everyone has a voice, and they're just interviewing anybody. And
no one listens to people who don't sound confident. So,
and the interesting thing being, obviously, it was somebody from the African community from Lambeth, and she was already on this advisory board. Now, if that had been somebody like myself and been asked about Churchill and said, "Oh, I've never met him. What's he like?" I've heard his eyes. It would have been on every bit of media, every bit of thing.
How did it go from being the person of the century
to being hated? A month ago we were celebrating VE Day, and now it's on to this. But now they want to take every statue down. So it's interesting because we just don't. I think Formula One has got some things that we kind of hang on to, like its engines, its glamour, its fun.
Nuance. No one's got nuance anymore. Everything's either this or this. Now, it's pretty well documented. Churchill's attitudes. He was incredibly racist. He hated Africans. It's a well-known thing. This isn't made up.
Yeah.
But he did save this country from really terrible things. Yeah. So if you can go, all right, the guy was an arse in many respects. He was a drunkard, and the list goes on. He knew he had all these faults himself, a lot of them.
Yeah.
The statue isn't there to celebrate those things. The statue is there to celebrate what he did for this country in World War II, which, if it had gone south, we wouldn't be having this conversation about anything.
Yeah. So I don't. So
a fascist dictatorship that would be spanning the whole of the world.
I mean, my thing is just I don't think Formula One can afford to take bad advice, especially from groups of people that are really being found out, unfortunately, not to be with an awful lot of knowledge, certainly about sport and Formula One, and be able to make good long-term decisions. And a lot of I think that's genuinely why many of the team bosses and all that have not said a single thing and have stayed so far out of it, because they know they're in for a serious sport and they need to get on and make it work. If they get involved in all this politics stuff, they will fall on their faces. It will be a big mistake. And that's kind of the thing that I'm coming from. And unfortunately, I think it's a lot of people who are getting involved in this in Formula One, some of the drivers. I think they've been very poorly advised and they've jumped on a bandwagon thinking it'll be great for their following. But actually, when they're found out that these followings are not maybe great, or the people that they're supposedly supporting might not be particularly wholesome, then it could come back to bite them.
But again, this is another problem with this. I mean, I understand where you're coming from, Hugh, and with ill-considered and ill-advised responses, absolutely. Though I still stick by that if someone wants to say something about something and they feel passionate about it, go for it. I won't judge them on that in motorsport. I might not like them as a person, I might not agree with them, but I won't be there going, and that's the difference, you see. I won't be making snap decisions about these people who come out with stuff, because on the other side of things, the whole chain of events has happened since George Floyd and all that kind of stuff, and other stuff that's gone on in America, and the things that have gone on with people across the world, whatever, all the different things. The chain of events that's happened is so complex and has so many facets to it. So you're getting riots that are happening sometimes because peaceful protests have been attacked. You're getting looting going on by people that are in the protest groups, and you also get looting by people not in the protest groups, and they've been reported in different ways to make it look like something, and then they're reported by another side in a different way to make it look like something else. And it's just a mess. So I think as human beings, what we need to do, and what Formula One is, and I think the bosses are doing very well in this, hence the statement, something will be coming out, and they're not just making snap decisions. It's going, right, there is a human problem here. It would be nice to have a more diverse mix of people in this sport. What can we do about that without screwing the sport?
See, what's quite an interesting thing for me is that the BLM website comes up with this thing that they want to get rid of capitalism and replace it with basically communism. Many of them are very hardline socialists. Now, I don't know about you, but I don't think communist Russia had a massive influence on Formula One over the years in terms of how many drivers. So there is particular drivers who are supporting that group and who are saying, yeah, we're backing it, we think it's great. They want, many of the ones who run that group they want to bring down Western civilization and replace it with communism.
No political system is going to fix it.
And if you can,
capitalism particularly.
But at least it's kind of worked on, and it has a history where we've been able to actually afford to do Formula One. In terms of it has allowed that. You're not going to have that if you're going to support communism, because communism hasn't really produced a massive amount of Formula One race drivers. Correct me if I'm wrong, but in terms of all our viewers and our listeners as well. So my point is, why would you support something? If you're going to put your name to something, you need to look at what they actually support, because when you realize what they do support, you wouldn't want to have. He's out of a job. Hamilton's out of a job. His money's gone. His wealth is gone. Everything he's got is gone because it's taken over.
So people are seeing Black Lives Matter as a reaction against the death, a tragic and
but that's what they're kind of led to see. But it's a lot more than that.
They're not seeing all this other stuff, and there's a lot of anger involved. There's a lot of reaction involved,
other crazy
scratching for solutions in a reaction against what they see as the problem.
Yeah, North Korea is about the only one left.
Still involved in the problem. It's that it's humans.
Yeah.
For all, because my brother was a Marxist and he used to quote.
You always get one in the family. There's always one in the family somewhere.
He's older than me, and he knew it by heart, and he would quote Engels, Marx till I was so bored. Some of it was like, oh, that's lovely, that's really nice. But then you look at communist Russia, millions of people that were murdered by Stalin, by Trotsky, and all these people, and you go, well, that didn't quite work out, did it? That really wasn't looking after people.
It's tens of millions dead, and
however it started, for whatever reason it started, and it started because there were thousands and hundreds of thousands of people starving very badly in Tsarist Russia, so that the reaction was, let's stop this. And then it got taken over by the same people that were just as evil that got to the top of that organisation and did the same again. It's just had a different name. It's kind of like, you will always get some evil git taking over and running it. And you will always get people to, it's like when they used to go shopping in over there. They're all shopped in the same shop, but the 10th floor was for the party leader. And you could get caviar, and the first floor you were lucky to get bread. It's kind of
it was completely one-sided. It was horrendous.
All I'm saying is that the solution isn't to make a new organisation for some to take over. The solution, any of these things, is individual people looking after each other. Yeah.
And I think that this is the big thing. It kind of comes back down to, I don't think these Formula One drivers have really looked at the politics of it. They have only said they think it's a movement about race, when actually when you look at those movements, they're actually not about race. It's about power and about changing whole political systems. That's the problem. And it will come back to bite them, because I think they've made a very poor decision. And that's why the older drivers and the more experienced, other than Hamilton, and the team bosses are not really having anything to do with it. They're not going to make any statements and just say that we're here to do Formula One, and that's it, kind of thing. And I think that's the best way to deal with it, is to stay out of the politics. And as fans as well, we don't want politics in it like that.
This is to answer that you just said, is that I have seen hundreds of statements, hundreds of posts on Facebook and Twitter and all these different things where they're saying you cannot avoid this, you cannot just so people are being pressured into getting involved. And the problem is that if you as one of the supposedly privileged white males of this life, which
I know.
To be labelled as that when people have no clue what's going on in my life or the upbringing I've had. If I were to get involved to try and help, and kind of stuff, I'd just be labelled as someone jumping on the bandwagon. Yeah. And if I don't,
could you imagine? What would have been interesting? I mean, Cathy Newman obviously let that go because she knew that was the biggest whopper that they had left. I mean, someone who thinks that Winston Churchill is alive today and is on a police advisory board is insane. It's crazy. I mean, you would never let that go. You would say you do realise he's dead. You do realise he died a number of years ago. But they didn't. They didn't even make any fuss. Now, could you imagine if that had been Andrew Neil? Doing the same kind of comment, been interviewed. I mean, he would have said, he is dead. And he probably would have been fired for the result because he may have said, he was too nasty against somebody. But you're going to point out the facts. So I think that's where it is in Formula One, isn't it? That if you're going to make
Jeremy Paxman or something, he would have ripped her head off.
Yeah. I mean, it does show that we are giving in to people who are, we're letting everyone have a voice. But we're not even testing that voice for any kind of educated view or anything.
They're banning people like Jermaine Greer, who was 20 years ago was being touted as the goddess of
feminism and all that stuff.
So, she's in charge because she knows everything. And they're all talking about how they've read a book and it's changed their lives, and we're going to stop all these men taking over and being horrible.
It's kind of crazy.
She's not allowed to say anything because it'll upset somebody because she has an opinion. And this is why I say I did a YouGov surveys, and I did a YouGov survey today, and they had a question which I refused to answer, and I put in the comments at the end, because the question was, do you think the media is irresponsible and should have tighter controls? Now, that's two questions, and I don't necessarily believe that they're both mutually inclusive. Yes, I do think the media is irresponsible because they so they get more listeners, readers, whatever it might be, and it isn't an accurate representation. But I don't think the government should be in charge of the media.
The funny thing was, there was one Chris Cuomo, who's a CNN presenter, whose brother is the governor of New York. When the protests were going on, he said another crazy quote saying, where does it say in any of our, in any of the First Amendments or the amendments of, of the American, what do they call it? The diktat that they have.
The Constitution.
The Constitution. Where does it say in the Constitution that protests have to be peaceful and quiet? And then there's a guy who did a video. He's a young boy who's eating some crisps, right, on YouTube. You'll see it on YouTube. And he says, actually, it's in the First Amendment that people have the right to peaceful protest, but not kind of carnage and everything else. And
he obviously didn't want to say that word.
Yeah, and it got like millions of views because obviously he's not done his homework and he hasn't even read the First Amendment. But it shows you that the media are stirring this all up. And it's almost like to create a kind of civil war, probably because it's an election year, and that's why in America certainly. But Ant was saying, it's in Washington D.C. There's a block of 6 blocks that have been taken over by this group, and they're running everything themselves. There's massive amount of crime that the police gave up. They had to flee from one of the buildings from their police district thing from their building because it was under attack. They burnt down another one. And now the BLM lot and Antifa are running it themselves. And there's all sorts of crime and problems and issues. And the governor there, or the mayor of Washington, D.C., is refusing to move them out. But people who actually live there, who are trying to work and do things, are being under threat every day. It's kind of crazy. But I know we've kind of diversed a little bit from F1. But if we go on that run, this is the problem. People don't know what they're supporting because they've not been educated enough or they need to think for themselves to go and check these things out before you just support something like that. Otherwise, people will make rash decisions and it will come back to hurt, whether it be Formula One or themselves in this way.
I think, I'm talking specifically for Formula One, but also for the rest of the world. I think that what needs to happen is we need to let people say what they think, even if it's uninformed, but we all need to learn how to react to it.
Yeah, and be sensible.
The thing that's been upsetting me has been people's reactions to other people's statements. So when somebody puts, and they make it clear afterwards when they're trying to defend themselves, all lives matter, and it's terrible.
Yeah, which is what.
And then they get attacked by 100 people saying, "You white." Typical, including by Pink, who told them that got the head up their arse, get lost, and I'm like, what? Yeah. That isn't the way.
They want there's no tolerance from people who supposedly speak tolerance.
There's no tolerance. Dialogue. There's no. Yeah. How can you learn? How can you change? If I ask somebody what their life was like, and they get really angry with me because it's obvious that I've been privileged all my life, and they won't talk to me about it. How does that help anybody?
Yeah, exactly.
I've got a genuine fascination with people's lives, with cultures, with all sorts of things. If somebody, I used to have friends from all over Africa as a student. One of my friends was called Comfort. Beautiful.
Oh yeah.
And he said, like the fabric softener, and he was from Swaziland, and he loved. One of the things I loved about his culture is that you had to feed him, and vice versa. You couldn't just turn up and not be fed. You had to be fed. That was, and that's a cultural thing, and it's a fantastic culture. Now, there's other cultural things I don't like. I'm not a particular fan of things like the burqa and all that kind of stuff. It's not a race issue. I don't like that, and I'm allowed to say that.
Yeah,
I have to say that, and I've got my reasons, and I will have a conversation with someone. And at the end of that conversation, we may disagree. Probably will, and that will be fine too. All of these things are fine.
Yeah, but you can still like each other, and that is the thing.
How the conversation takes place is what's important. I can't be having someone attacking me and telling me what they think I am.
Yeah.
In the same way that I would not do that to them.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? So that is what needs to change. I don't care. Danny Ricciardo can say that he hates all. I don't know.
We're very distressed that we've made that up in case there's something thinks they'll be already going on to Motorsport saying, where was that said?
Danny Ricciardo didn't say anything. All he said is he's going to beat everybody and win. That's what he said.
No, that's the thing. And probably on that note, we've been going for over an hour, and it's been a particularly political show tonight, which is quite good, quite interesting. Eh? We're going up different avenues all the time. Now, in the background, you can see that picture there. If you subscribe to the show, you're going to do it on YouTube. You're going to subscribe on YouTube and give us a like as well. And obviously watch our shows when you can. That would be fantastic. Then you'll be in the hat for a chance to win this special wall tile of Ayrton Senna and Juan Manuel Fangio, which is truly unique.
It's not Coronation Street, is
it? And it's going to be, once we hit the 1,000 subscriber mark, then we'll put all the names into a hat, and you could be winning that incredible wall tile. It's been sorry?
What kind of hat?
I don't know. Maybe I've got to put it in my crash helmet. I'll put it in my big crash helmet, and then I'll tip them all out. And that, because you have to be watching, because you need two people to make sure it's all genuine.
Is it a gold star crash helmet? Is it race?
It's the most basic white crash helmet you've ever seen. That in terms of, I don't mean actually white helmet. It's a white crash helmet. Before anyone starts to put any kind of remark on it, it's 30 years old.
Light, achromatic.
Yes, it's painted in white because it was the cheapest one I could buy, and from the shop, from the go-kart shop. So I got a crash helmet and a pair of racing boots at the same time. So that was the thing. But no doubt they'll quote one name.
Time says Ant.
I might have to at this rate. But,
it's still 1,000. Oh well.
But we might well have. I'm waiting on Louise Walker to come back to me. The double world ladies world champion, rally champion. So I'm hoping. Yeah, and her daughter, assumingly, was the national rally champion of 2017. I think the women's rally champion of 2017. I'll need to double check, but it's on Wikipedia. So I'm hoping if I can get Louise, I might be able to get her daughter as well.
Which comes on what the split is between male and female rally drivers, because I've heard before, and I'll say it till I'm blue in the face. There is no reason why a woman can't be as fast or faster than any bloke. The equipment's the same. You know, eyes, head, nose, gob, arse, feet, hands. You know, the stuff. You know, there's nothing to stop that happening. So it must just be a numbers game then. If there's less of them,
and it's the money as well. They all need a lot of money. To be able to do it, but rallying's slightly different, to be fair. But I'm hoping to obviously hear back from Louise, either hopefully with a yes, as you can do the show.
The
what?
Simonite sisters, they weren't twins. They were on Top Gear. They were good. They used to do. It was kind of like they had souped up Land Rovers, didn't they? But
yeah. Well, I'm hoping to get Louise, and maybe perhaps we might even be able to get her daughter as well to do an online show. That would be great. Because it's great to get local rallying legends, and especially Louise with double world ladies world champion. I've been trying to get her for quite a while, so hopefully now we'll get a chance to get her on the show. But there you go. So you've been watching the Car, Sim and Race Driver Show, and make sure you subscribe if you haven't already, and share out the show with all your motorsport buddies.
Shouldn't we change its name to the Car, Sim and Race Driver Politics Show? No.
Well, we might have to. There might be ways. I'm going to have to give every politics bit, every politics hashtag.
Don't forget to vote. You have to change it. Drive past to the polling station.
Thank you very much for watching and for listening. And I'll leave our famous saying to Andrew.
Oh, I've got to say it again. Drive fast and try not to crash.
Thanks for watching. Bye just now.